That's House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries sounding off on the big, beautiful bill during a town hall in Louisiana last night. This is just a preview of how Democrats are planning to use the bill ahead of the midterm campaigning with their own narrative about it. Joining me now is Pennsylvania Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, the House Chief Deputy Whip and member of the House Appropriations Committee. Congressman, what do you make of this? You heard what Hakeem Jeffries calls the bill and how he's using it.
Well, Maria, thanks for having me on. Always appreciate it. If the Democrats want to make the one big beautiful bill the issue heading into the midterms, I welcome it because the American people wanted this bill. We have no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. This is the largest tax cut for working families in the history of the United States. It also is a huge plus up for military spending, a huge plus up for border security. So if they want to run against this bill, I welcome it because they're so out of step with where the American people are, and their opposition to this tax cut shows just where they are.
Yeah, I mean, I said earlier, they're trying to pull out parts of the bill that they believe they didn't want to happen, but they keep very conveniently missing the fact that you all actually stopped the highest tax increase that anyone would have seen had you not passed this bill.
Well, exactly, Maria. A no vote on this bill, what that really means is it's a vote for the largest tax increase in American history. That's right. What this would have been. Also, you would have not have had the repeal of the Green New Scam provisions that weaken our grid, our energy sector grid. Yeah, and again, the border security issue is huge. The public was focused on border security as well as economic issues leading in the last cycle. This bill does exactly what the American people sent President Trump to the White House to do and what they sent Congress to do. And that is, again, stimulate the economy, cut taxes, protect the border, modernize our military. And you see all that in this bill. And I want to focus again on the working families aspect of this. This is targeted at working families. The no tax on tips is going to be incredibly important. No tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. So these provisions are going to be very popular with the working class. The Democrats have totally shifted their platform to being the party of Wall Street insiders, where the Republicans are now the party of the working class, and that's going to help us going into the midterm elections.
Well, of course, and there's also a real focus on national security, whether it is the money for the border or increasing money to modernize our military. I want to get your take on that and what happens next with Iran. The administration is pushing back on this New York Times story today, claiming that some of Iran's enriched uranium survived Operation Midnight Hammer. According to a senior Israeli official, the White House says, as President Trump has said many times, Operation Midnight Hammer totally obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities. The entire world is safer thanks to his decisive leadership. Congressman, I spoke with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about this, as well as President Trump about this. Your reaction in terms of the wherewithal of Iran today after the U.S. Military powerful moves in the last few weeks?
Well, their capability has been crippled. Their nuclear program has completely been decimated, sent them back decades. And I think it's very clear that President Trump said under his watch, Iran will never get a nuclear weapon. And after Operation Midnight Hammer, they're certainly not going to get a nuclear weapon under President Trump's watch or for the next 10 or 20 years, for that matter, on this pace. So it was a resounding success that we had in Iran. That was a situation that could have spiraled out of control because of Trump's decisive actions, his bold actions. It's actually going to lead to the Iranians and Israelis having a peace deal. And I've said this before, the last administration, President Trump should have been given a Nobel Peace Prize for the Abraham Accords. He should certainly be eligible now for a Nobel Peace Prize for what his efforts have been in Iran and Israel.
Well, that's right. And Benjamin Netanyahu nominated President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize, as did New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, among others. So many have recognized the president's incredible leadership on all of this. I want to get your take on the border. Hundreds of people reportedly expected to be arrested in Southern California this week after an immigration raid at that cannabis farm, leading to violent protests. Now, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, criticized the raid. He writes this: kids running from tear gas, crying on the phone because their mother was just taken from the fields. But CBP Commissioner Rodney Scott said this: 10 juveniles were found at that marijuana facility. All of them were illegal. 8 of them were unaccompanied. It's now under investigation for child labor violations as well as everything else. This is Newsom's California. Your reaction?
Well, that's exactly right. We have to understand that what we saw at the border under the last administration was a humanitarian crisis, and was a crisis that was brought upon by the policies of the Democratic Party and Joe Biden. You were seeing children that were being brought into this country unaccounted for, used in these labor practices illegally. So what President Trump is doing, what Homeland Security is doing, and specifically is addressing the chaos that was brought about by the weakness of the last administration. And if someone is here illegally, they should be deported. If there's a company that's using child labor, then they should pay the consequences of the law, and we should try to make sure that those children are cared for. But what you're seeing is a correction of the disaster that was the last 4 years with the Biden administration.
So what about these attacks on our ICE agents? A manhunt is underway for a man accused of shooting at officers during an ambush at that Texas ICE center earlier this week. ICE agents are also fighting off masked mobs outside of San Francisco immigration court this week. Democrats are fighting for a bill that would force agents to unmask, Congressman.
Well, just talking about the masks, it's pretty ironic that the party that made us mask up for 2 or 3 years during the pandemic, and that also goes to protests on college campuses wearing masks a lot of times, now they don't want our American heroes that are in ICE to wear masks. It's pretty ironic and hypocritical. But just going back to these protests, the Democrats are trying to say, once again, that these are mostly peaceful protests. But what you have is violent protesters that are trying to assassinate and harm ICE agents. They're also trying to do things like dox their family members, expose their identities. So their rhetoric is really heated up, and it's leading to a lot of what you're seeing. And the fact that the Democrats are trying to gloss this over and just say that these are nothing but peaceful protests is once again off mark and inaccurate.
Unbelievable. Congressman, it's good to see you. We're watching your work as usual. We appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria.